Language into thrust. As you kneel before Azawa, Legend of Zelda's turn to dust. Podcasting from the future like your time was dead and gone. And we rock the best site like ComicsOnline.com.
So, do we understand correctly that this has been a project in the making for the footage? It's been trying to shop this before.
Since I was born in 1959, I've been wanting to do a zombie show.
Is that right?
No, that's not true.
Tell us a little bit about the bigger background of this project.
The bigger background is we're both geeks. We're both born with the gene that says we love horror. We love the genre. And when I was 14, 1973, I saw Night of the Living Dead, which was this by then legendary movie that nobody had ever seen, that was whispered of like it was the worst kind of pornography, and of course we had to go see it. And I loved it. I loved the zombie genre. So when I walked into House of Mysteries in Burbank about 4 or 5 years ago maybe, and I saw this comic book called The Walking Dead. I think it was the first trade edition, maybe. I of course grabbed it as, like, oh, zombies, excellent. Why not? And I took it home and I read it that night and thought, okay, this is a wonderful idea for a television show. I always thought that doing a show like this would be a great idea. And lo and behold, Robert Kirkman had basically blazed the trail of telling the story. So from that point on, we started to pursue it. But it has been like a 4 or 5 year long process.
But it's funny because something you said earlier today, that Frank and I were having dinner one night. This was 6 or 7 years ago, before The Walking Dead, and one of the things that Frank said, which I'll never forget, is that he said, we were talking about zombie movies, and you're like, it's kind of been done. Like he hadn't found the story that he felt that was sufficient to set in that world. And I remember specifically we were at the California Pizza Kitchen on Ventura Boulevard, and we were talking about zombie movies, and it was just kind of like, I think that that's been mined. So
it really has been mined as in the feature venue, and it's been done extremely well. You certainly have the George Romero's initial trilogy, and I'm a much bigger fan of Day of the Dead than some people say.
Yeah,
I think it's brilliant. I think some of the actors needed to switch to decaf, but they were a little big. But that's part of the style and charm of doing what is essentially a homemade film. The Dan O'Bannon Return of the Living Dead is a hilarious take on it. Edgar's picture, Shaun of the Dead, Edgar and Simon's movie, is wonderful. It's been done so well. I think the Dawn of the Dead remake that Zack Snyder did is very good. Certainly Danny Boyle is responsible now for 2 really great riffs on the zombie idea. They're not really zombies. It's like, I can't compete on the comedic level, and I can't compete on the let's make a really great 2-hour movie level. It's been mined. I feel like I'd be showing up with my pickaxe going, I'm not even sure where to dig. What makes this different is it's not a 2-hour movie or less. It's not a 90-minute to 2-hour narrative. It's something where we get to dig in over a long period of time, hopefully, and really be. Look, you can do Lost as a 2-hour movie, I suppose, and you'll never really get to know those characters beyond the limitations of the narrative of the 2-hour story you're telling. It ran for 7 years. We loved it because we really got to know these people, and it was an ongoing, highly serialized experience. That's never been done before. Dead Set, the British thing, which I really liked a lot, was basically 6 hours and goodbye. I love the idea of living with these people over a period of years and telling their story, and that's what makes it different, and that's what makes it exciting to me.
What do you like about zombie? When you first said this, I was wondering, what's the deal with this genre?
I don't know. Why are some people born gay? Why are some people born straight? Why are some people born with green eyes? Why are some people born bald? Well, I wasn't born bald. Yes, I was. It came and went.
It's
I believe that the things that we love are genetic predisposition. I wish I had been born with the gene that could create music. Because I love music. I cannot play music, I cannot create music. It is like blood in my veins to appreciate music, but I lack the gene to do it. I see somebody like Bear McCreary, and it's like, okay, we're the Tom Newmans of this world, who are apparently born with the gene.
I think
loving the genre is the same thing.
The things that destroy your creativity, you become nothing but this mindless creature. And it calls out to you to be more creative. To say, I'm going to survive. The zombies are actually the pressures of, life that just sap life out of you. It just turns you into a mindless creature. And you fight to be who you are and hang on your creativity. So you're drawn to the zombies, not so much to the zombies.
It's as good a metaphor as any.
Yeah. Talking of creativity, there's a couple of characters who effectively created who weren't in here. Two people who die in the first comic, and then you've given them a fresh take on from them. And I wonder if you could talk a bit about those decisions and where those stories go. I think you may need short.
Sorry, which ones?
Shane and Amy, who were dead after the first comic.
Yeah, no, I was shocked to realize how quickly Shane dies in the comic.
Yeah, it's fast.
It's fast, because I'm going to hold on to that son of a bitch till at least season 3.
Why?
Because he's a great character. Again, the great pleasure of being able to... I'm not going to say that comic books lack information. That would be silly, because some of them are very, very deep indeed. In their own art form, and I grew up loving them myself. But when you're telling stories on film that are embodied by actors, it's like so many more layers come into it. I think the stories can get more complex. And you can hold on to characters and really explore those arcs. I was actually surprised going back and rereading Robert's stuff not that long ago. I've been developing these first 6 episodes. I was really surprised to see how little Shane was in it. Because in my head, he'd become such a vital, a huge component of the show, of the narrative. I thought, really? He's dead? He's dead? It's crazy. It was wild to me, because, the whole dynamic of a friendship, of a brother. Christ, Shakespeare could have written, he did. He wrote, his whole body of work is basically the idea of great love or great brotherhood, the cracks forming and, the crumbling of relationships, there seems to be much more to say about the Rick and Shane dynamic. With Laurie, the love triangle aspect of it is fantastic. Laurie is the fulcrum in the middle. I'm not killing this guy by the second episode. Are you high?
Can you tell me a bit about the gore factor? I mean, how much do you enjoy the shocking of the audience, and how far are you willing to have?
Well,
there are no limits.
There are no limits. I mean, we've talked a lot about the fact that AMC has never said no. You can't do that. It's too gory. It's too bloody. I mean, the beauty of this ensemble is you get to any horror is only as successful as how much you invest in them, how much you know them. The more you know them, the more you understand them, the more you want them to either work out their problem. The bad guys you hate more, the good guys you like more, but you're still invested in them whether you like them or hate them. So whatever happens to them is that much more shocking when something horrific happens, and that's really what stops you in your tracks. And in a show like this where you have this cast and just the dynamic of Rick and Shane and Laurie, even just that alone, and then you add the element of at any moment somebody could get grabbed and somebody could be wounded or killed. It heightens that excitement, and it keeps you sort of the minute you get lulled into a false sense of security, you'll be thrust back into the zombie world.
Are still things that turn your stomach? Since you're such horror.
Politicians, corrupted power, the staggering greed that we're seeing in this world, the shamelessness and brazenness of the shitheadedness of those in power, that turns my heart. Well, it depends on your definition of satire. If we're going back to, you know, the truest definition of it, which is social commentary, societal commentary, then yes, satire, absolutely. I mean, what is? I mean, oh my God, it's a satirical notion. It's possible that our own dead are going to come and consume us. It's great, and there's something about the fact that this has become so culturally embraced in the mainstream in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
5 to 10, perhaps, which is blowing my mind because this was sub-genre horror for a lot of years, a lot of decades. And now suddenly grandma's buying the Max Brooks fucking How to Survive the Zombie Apocalypse joke book at Barnes & Noble. And I'm thinking, okay, what has brought us to this point? And I'm certain, aside from the fun aspect of zombies, and let's admit it, it's a fun idea. It's a fun and thrilling sort of video game idea of maybe I'll survive if I can get enough ammo and shoot enough of these fuckers in the head. That's great. But I do believe there's something very millennial going on. I'm not talking crazy, you know, I worship the comet that's coming, kind of millennial crazy. I'm talking, I think we've reached in the early part of the 21st century a realization that what we have built here as a civilization is too big to sustain. There are too many people, there are too many requirements, on too much stress on resources, and everything is dwindling. And I think everybody, even stupid people who don't stop to think about things, are getting this really creepy feeling in the back of their neck that any day now it could all come down, and that's when the dead will eat us. That's why the zombies are such a great metaphor. They become their own metaphor, I think, for this bizarre sense of creeping dread that I think is really working itself into our species right now.
That was great. We should have recorded that.
We did.
That was really good.
Really? Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask one very last question about
Actually, we have to get. We literally have to get on.
2 words.
Oh, ham sandwich. Wait, what was the question?
Well, working in TV and working with AMC, who has the best TV currently.
Sure, they're fantastic. They're fantastic. They really are.
That's why you chose the project, because it was the combination of TV and zombie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I call it must-see zombie TV.
From leaping tall buildings to going off like gamma bombs. Switch your internet browser to ComicsOnline.com.